Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of BC Plus Live. I'm your host, Jeremiah, W9JAM, with my co-host,
Jeremy, K5YZ.
And tonight we are actually going to be talking about programming your AnyTone Radio with the NOAA Weather Frequencies, as well as where you can actually, or how to actually search for the ARES repeaters or SkyWarn repeaters in your state, how to find those and be able to use those in an emergency. So let's say, you want to have everything set up, programmed, ready to go. This is basically the lesson on how to do that tonight. I'm going to be using my trusty 168 for programming tonight. So we can take and cover that. The radio has been factory reset. So this is going to be a blank radio, no code plug, no nothing in it. So you get the full out-of-the-box experience with the programming tonight. So welcome to everybody who is on YouTube that is watching us tonight. I see Jacob is in there. Jacob, not sure if you're in Zoom yet. I know you should have got the email. Yep, he's here. So he's watching us on YouTube and on Zoom. So he's pulling some double duty with those monitors tonight.
Well, not only that, in stereo.
Well, I'm not sure about the stereo, but we'll see. I see Pamela in Massachusetts. So neighbor somewhere here in the state next to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's up in your neighborhood, ain't it?
Yep. And then Delmont in Maine. And then we've got David, N8POT, at the VA hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. David, I hope everything's okay. Not sure if you're there helping out as a volunteer or if they just had a late night appointment for you, but hopefully everything's okay.
Most definitely.
So, let's go ahead and get started here. So for everybody, if you're new to programming your radio or just got your radio and you haven't programmed anything in it yet, the first thing you need to do is find out what firmware version is in your radio. That way you can make sure you've got the right CPS. If you've got the 168, the latest firmware version has a bunch of bug fixes. So before you go programming anything, probably does not hurt to go ahead and do the firmware update. And the instructions for that are actually in the latest firmware file on our website. YouTube, I will go ahead and post that link in YouTube too. So you guys will see that in the chat. support.bridgecomsystems.com/product-support. And you'll actually click on that and then go to the 168 page, and then it'll be the very top option. And you'll be able to download that file, extract it, and then before you do anything else, make sure you check out the read first folder. That will have PDF files for how to update your firmware on your radio properly. Very important. Make sure you do the MCU reset after you do your firmware update, because if you don't, you will get a get data error, 250,000, and the root cause of that is because the firmware hasn't been initialized yet with the MCU reboot. So you're going to want to make sure you do that.
How long is it from the time that a new version of the CPS comes out that it takes before it hits our website as being able to be downloaded and installed?
Typically within 24 hours. It depends on when AnyTone sends us the new firmware. And, we go through, check it out on our radios first, and then we put it live on the website. So usually about 24 hours. I see that Motor City Man is saying BridgeCom support is fantastic. We appreciate that. I know we try our best to make sure that we get back to everybody within 48 hours from the time a ticket is submitted. Sometimes we need more information to be able to help you guys, and just keep an eye on your email so we can take and get that information to get you the answer that you need to, get on the air with your radio.
Exactly.
Nicholas Hessman, give me one moment and I will get you that link. Let me find your contact information and I will get you the Zoom, because I know you are a lifetime member. Because we just updated the full list today. So bear with me for just a moment here. Jeremy, if
I can take it and run with it for a little bit. All right. For all of those that have questions about your firmware updates and the new CPSs that are out, I know there's other entities out there that usually post them the minute they go live, but yet, to my knowledge, there's no vetting. When we get an upgraded version of the CPS firmware, we put them on our radios. We run them for a few days to make sure there's no bugs, or if there is, we know how to take care of them before it's publicized, because we all don't want to upgrade to the latest greatest firmware CPS and experience a big boulder. It's happened several times, and then everybody is beating their head against the wall, ready to throw the radio out the window, or like some of the country folk that I know would throw it out the window or off the back porch and take a shotgun to it because they're tired of messing with it. At least this way, when it's on our site, it has been vetted. We have put these to use in the radios to make sure that we know what's going on. And that's not saying that a few weeks, a month, maybe 2 months down the road, something arises. If you come across something like that, shoot us an email and say, hey, this is what I found. Include some screenshots of it if plausible. That would be amazing.
video.
A video would be awesome.
Videos, if you find a bug and you can take a video of your screen or a video of what the radio is doing, that helps tremendously, because it gives us something to send to AnyTone showing the problem instead of just a description and how we got to that. And then they can take and put that to use to correct the bug and release a new firmware version.
Because some of them, bugs don't show up until after the fact.
Yeah, because we can only test so much.
Yeah.
With AnyTone, I know typically I get an email from AnyTone directly saying, hey, we've got a new beta firmware. Here's the link to download it. Try it out. Let us know what you find and report back. And I do that in my off hours and then let them know what I found. And they're like, okay, here's the updated one. And it goes through several revisions usually before we get a quote unquote production firmware and production CPS, so we can send it out to everybody. Exactly. And even then, there could be a bug that nobody discovered, but one of you guys finds and lets us know, and then we get that to AnyTone, and then their next production release of firmware, that's where it gets addressed. So that's how that whole process works.
Yeah, I remember when I was in tech, it was about, I guess, my 7th or 8th month in. I believe it was 1.12 that came out that had all of the nightmare stuff with it. Bugs were found, and they kept compiling and multiplying as the bugs went on. It was taken off the site. Notifications went out and was telling the customers to revert back one. And I believe it was within just a few days to a week, AnyTone released 1.13 out, I believe was the number, that corrected everything that had been reported. So AnyTone does take what y'all give to us to heart when they go to start fixing firmwares and updating and stuff like that. It don't just fall on deaf ears. So if y'all come across something with one of the radios, whether it be a 578, 168, 878, let us know. We will pass it in to them and try to get it addressed so it can be taken care of. All right. There's my two little cents on it.
All right. So in YouTube, Brian Ellis says, Ultimate Ham Shack pack arrives tomorrow. Woohoo. Brian, if you need help with getting your SkyBridge set up on your network, submit a ticket, let me know. It's pretty straightforward if you plug it into your network, but if you're setting up Wi-Fi, there's two different ways you can do it, and I can get you the directions on how to do that. The simplest way with the SkyBridge now is literally going through, taking and putting in the Wi-Fi information in a configuration file, and then literally just dropping it onto the micro SD card for the SkyBridge. And then when it boots up, it'll auto connect. As long as your SSID is exactly what it is on your network. If you've got any punctuation, capitalization off at all on your SSID, but your password's right, it won't work. It's got to be exact. So just a heads up on that. Tony, give me a couple of moments and I will get that verified and get you the link for Zoom. Robert, same thing. Let me find yours real quick because I know you are a BC Plus member. And there was something that came up with some of the emails today. So I apologize if you got the incorrect link. I'll get you an email with that link right now.
Okay, while you're doing that, for all of the BC Plus members, let me know in the chat which one of the radios, 168, 878, or the 578, is your personal favorite. And those in YouTube, same thing goes. Put it in the post and we'll see which one of the radios is the crowd favorite.
All right. And don't worry, guys, I'm just doing a little bit of housekeeping right this second to make sure that, you know, everybody's getting what they're supposed to get.
There you go. Lord Lenny says he needs a 168.
Okay. Tony, you should have gotten that email. Yeah, you should have gotten the email. Let me send you the direct link for Zoom real quick. Check your email. It'll be subject Zoom link. Whoops. Let's try that again. I was about to send you an email with your own email address. Whoops. Be like, well, I can click on this, but I'm just emailing myself then. What the heck?
Well, here's a good analysis of the question that I posed. November 2, Lima Bravo Lima says that the 878 was the first choice. The 578 and 168 tied for second. And I can see why. Each rig has its plus and minus. So that's a fair assessment. N2DUI states that the 878 UV1 is his favorite because it was his first one purchased. I will have to agree. I still have my original purchase radio when I became a BridgeCom customer, and that is the 868. And for those that's been around the AnyTone line for any time at all, knows that the 868 had that colored orange tip of the antenna. I still have it and I still rock it. Love my radio.
All right. So Tony, Robert, you both have your emails. Please double check. Make sure that you got it.
Now, Jacob, when you say that the 878, the volume, indoor max level is sometimes too low, and level 1 max level is too loud, are you utilizing those settings on an accessory, i.e. a lapel mic or an earpiece? Okay. Is this going to be on DMR, or is it going to be on analog, or does it happen on both sides? Just DMR. Okay. On the CPS, if you go into, I believe it's digital function tab, about, I'd say halfway down, there is one that allows you to be able to choose just the DMR volume in that one. That one you can adjust it, and it doesn't go against your settings on analog, but it helps that DMR volume as it comes out of the radio. The other thing that you got to look at is the person whom is talking. There are some that will put the radio down their throat in their belly and talk, and other ones will hold the radio across the room and try to talk. I've noticed that some radios on the market have got real quiet mics. Some of them have really, 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 really hot mics. If that's the case, there's really not a way to mitigate that successfully that I have found. Now, Jeremiah may have a trick up his sleeve. Does Jarvis have the in on that one?
Yes. Use your parrot test to test your own audio with your microphone. Set your radio according to your audio with your volume for Digimic gain set to 3. That's what everybody should be using for DMR under the volume audio tab. If people are coming in extremely loud, that's the mic gain on their radio. And more than likely somebody, because they wanted to play a prank, unfortunately, we've got those people in amateur radio, has told them, speak up, I can't hear you. Speak up, I can't hear you. That is one of the things that I've noticed, and it's been a consistent issue. Now, that being said, on that volume audio tab, the volume goes all the way up to 8. If you set it for 8, you're going to get an issue where the speaker sounds distorted. Set it for 6 or 5 for the maximum volume. And then tune your volume according to what your parrot test comes back with your own voice talking into the radio. And then if somebody comes in really, really loud, tell them their mic's too hot. And if they're like, no, my microphone's fine, just tell them, look, I have to turn my radio down because of your microphone. Everybody else sounds fine. It's your microphone. You're the one that's hot. I'm just trying to give you a hand here, so all of us don't have to keep playing the volume knob game where you're trying to do the up, down, and it looks like a freaking EKG.
Did that help kind of give you which way to start looking to maybe mitigate your issue? Awesome. He says, thanks, team. All right. There's one successful one.
So,
no worries, sir. That's what we're here for. All right. Do you have the YouTube chat brought up on your side, Jeremiah?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see any questions or issues that somebody's posted in there?
Matthew Connors says, is there a video to configure my SkyBridge Max to work with their Yaesu radio, which would be YSF. And I'm assuming this means cross mode for YSF to DMR cross mode. There is not a YouTube video specifically on that, but it's not that hard to do. Well, let me rephrase that. There's not a video we have done specifically on that. So it's not that hard to do. I'm sure somebody else does have one. Clint, I need to try and find your email address. Actually, I should be able to search by your first name. Give me just a moment. Let me do that.
All right. BridgeCom Plus site. Anybody got any other questions that they'd like to bring out or a scenario? All right. Well, any issues using a 168 for an iGate? To answer that one, is using the 168 for an iGate. I have yet to figure out the iGate as far as that goes. I still use my 878 and 578 to go into my iGate instead of using it as a slave to the radio. I've got a standalone iGate running off a Raspberry Pi. Works great.
All right. Clint, please check your email. You should have the link here in just a second because I know you've got a BC Plus membership.
All right.
As I've worked with you before on that.
The YSF question that you had, Kurt, KF0CQN over here in the BC Plus chat says that he did a YSF to DMR presentation for his local club. He did not make a video of it, but he can share the slide deck that he used.
Okay. Why don't you get with us after the main show, Kurt? And we can set up a time for one of the upcoming shows where you can do the presentation and we can record it for everybody.
There you go.
And that way there's a recorded copy of it. Would that work for you, Kurt?
You got a thumbs up on it. All right. So new content be coming doing the YSF cross mode. Now, once again, that'll be YSF to DMR, not the other way around.
Correct. Now, for YouTube, I'm going to post a link in the YouTube chat real quick. This is the National Weather Service NWR station listing and the frequencies that they use for the National Weather Service weather radios. So here's the link there. And then I'm posting that in the BC Plus chat. And this is where you can find your main list for the frequencies. So these are what we're going to program in tonight for the NOAA weather radio frequencies. And I'm going to show you some settings in the code plug software that you need to take and set or make sure are turned off so you can actually receive the weather radio. Because there's a couple of settings that if they're turned on, it'll actually keep you from receiving. So that being said, what do you say we go ahead and get the CPS screen plugged in here and go ahead and read the radio and get started getting these weather channels in and then getting them into a zone?
All right. Take it away.
All right. So share screen, screen one. I don't need to share any sound from that screen. All right, guys. And I don't know why my Zoom disappeared on my other screen. Give me 1 second here. Let me get my chat brought back up here. It's like, wait a second. I know we're all here. What happened? All right. So this is the 168 CPS for version 1.05. As you can tell, I don't have anything in here right this moment because this is a blank code plug. This is what happens if you click on File and then New. All data will be reset. This is what you get. So when you're programming your radio, something to keep in mind, if you're doing digital, you now have a RX color code and a TX color code. A repeater will typically just list one color code. The color code needs to be set the same for both of these. If not, when you key the repeater, it will not respond if it's set to 0 on TX color code, unless that's the color code on the repeater. So just a heads up there. Okay. So let me show you guys the screen for the National Weather Service website. All right, can you guys see that okay?
Okay, on the BC Plus side, I'm getting a lot of nods and thumbs up, so.
Okay, cool. So here is the link up here. And then here's the station list. These are all the frequencies that are used for the National Weather Service radios. And then you can click on your individual state, and this shows where they are located at. And it even shows which ones are out of service. So if it's down, it'll say out of service. And then here's the call sign. So as you can tell, 162.550, 162.475, 162.425, and 162.550 are the ones that are used in Massachusetts on the east side of Massachusetts. And then the west side of Massachusetts is going to be the Albany repeater ones, or the Albany station ones. And right now, this one is actually down because it says it's out of service. Typically, that's because they're replacing something, or a storm took out the antenna and they need to fix it. So this is the list up here that we're going to use to program in. And we're just going to label them NOAA 1, NOAA 2, NOAA 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these channel ones right here. And then go in, hit enter.
Need to go back to your other screen so it can be
Yep,
seen.
I just realized that. Sorry. Alt-Tab does not work for switching shared screens. Darn computers. All right.
I'm telling you.
So first thing first, we need to set this as analog channel. We need to make sure our bandwidth is 25 kilohertz. And then we can set our frequency. So this is going to be 162.400. And I can actually just hit tab because it's zeros for the rest, and it'll autofill it in. So this one we need to make sure is, because we're not going to be transmitting on this, we want to check PTT prohibit. And then our transmit frequency, we can leave that alone. And then transmit power, that's not going to matter because we're not transmitting. And our squelch mode is going to be carrier. Now this custom CTCSS down here will not matter. So this channel, we just need to name it now. And I'm going to show you guys a neat little trick. Oops. Correction.
There you go.
Okay, so this one says NOAA 1, right? We're actually just going to copy it. Notice it auto changes the number to the next one for me. Now, the only thing that I've got to do is go in.
This only works when it's for these NOAA channels. If you try it with your other ones, you're going to have to make sure what you're going to name them as you do it.
Yes. Now, if you've got several repeaters in your area that are the same call sign, it will work for that too. So, and Eric, yes, that is correct. NOAA Weather Radio is not narrowband. It is wideband. So if you set this to 25 kilohertz, that is 12.5 kilohertz, that is narrowband. And it's not going to pick it up most of the time. So you need to make sure this is 25 kilohertz for your bandwidth. All right. So this one, we just need to put in the next frequency and then click next to move on, because we've already got our PTT prohibit here, and all we're changing is the frequency. The channel name is already what we want it. So this one is 425. Hit tab, next. Next one is going to be 450. Next. This is just, the quick shortcuts that I've learned to make it quick programming stuff in. Okay, this one changes to 500. This one's going to be 525. And the last one is going to be 550.
Now, I know this has been brought up several times. Why can't I just click and paste?
Unfortunately, with the way the AnyTone software is set up, like if I were to click here or highlight this and copy it, and then go into the channel itself, go right here, highlight this, and just press Control V. Whoops. Probably would help if I actually copied it first. That'll work. But if you just try to paste it in right here on the channel itself, that's not going to work. Like if I were to click here and click paste, that's not going to fill in the information for the channel. So that's why you've got to go through and do your proper setup on your first channel when programming these. And then you can just copy it and paste it and it'll fill in your numbers for you. And then the only thing you've got to do is change that decimal or the frequency part after the decimal. So we've got our NOAA, but what about like local ARIES or SkyWarn? How do we find that? Jeremy, do you have suggestions? Because I know what mine are.
The repeater book's all I know.
Well, let me get up here to the other screen. Let's go back to that screen where the NOAA is. And what we're going to do.
I remember back in the day where everybody that was a ham carried the little books that were about that big and they were about that thick, and it said repeater directory. Had every repeater in the United States that was amateur. It told you the frequency. It had any type of alternative power backups. I missed that.
Repeater book. Let's pull them up real quick. They are actually selling one.
They got it back?
Ta-da! The ARRL Repeater Directory 2025 edition. Coming in March 2025.
Nice.
So you'll be able to get that from the ARRL again. All right.
Those that are in a BridgeCom Plus, drop over in the chat and let me know if you actually had one of those prior to the development of the digital version.
All right. So sometimes it asks me to it has to verify I'm a human because I tend to go too quick sometimes. And I know one of these days I'm going to wake up and Jeremy's going to be standing over me with a skeleton going, I told you to slow down.
Cast iron at that.
Oh, that's going to hurt. Okay. So this is Massachusetts. I clicked on Massachusetts because that's where I'm at. And if we scroll down, we can actually see ARIES and SkyWarn, as well as WeatherNets and emergency power and RACES. I'm not sure what CanWarn is. If anybody knows, please let me know, because I haven't seen that one before. But for Aries repeaters, what we can do is I'm just going to right click on it and open a new tab. And that way, this will show me all the repeaters that are affiliated with Aries that are in the state. And you'll notice that these are all FM repeaters, meaning they support analog. And over here where it says modes, they can also support IRLP, which is Internet Radio Linking Project, Echo Link, P25, YSF, and WiresX. So this is a list that we can put in. The thing we got to remember is this list sometimes includes repeaters that are out of band for 2 meter and 440. Like this one up here, that's a 6 meter repeater. These two are. So how this breaks down is this will always be your receive frequency on your repeater. So this will be your transmit frequency on your radio. So let's open this up. Or excuse me, I said that wrong. I apologize. This is what you'll put in your radio for your receive frequency. This is your transmit frequency to activate the repeater. Okay? And then here's your offset. Now
you had posed the question about CanWarn for somebody to post it in the chat, if they knew what it was. Jim put in there, CanWarn is the Canadian version for Canadian Weather Amateur Radio Network is what it stands for.
Okay. Let's see here. Yep. I see a couple people posted that in the chat.
Yeah.
So excuse me. So we've got our frequencies, our receive frequency, our transmit frequency into the repeater, our offset, and I'm going to show you something here that's very important with the AnyTones. And then here is our CTCSS tone for decode and encode. And then here's the grid square of where that's located. And then which amateur radio club sponsors that repeater and if it's linked to another repeater. As well as the bandwidth, it says it's wideband. And then the website link for the amateur radio club. So let's go ahead and we're going to use this one as an example because it's the Aries repeater. We're going to take and go ahead and switch over to the other screen. And I've seen this a ton of times. If you are programming a code plug, leave yourself a blank line. This helps keep things organized for your zones. If you run everything together, you're not going to be able to troubleshoot as easily if there's no blank spaces for your zones. So I'm going to start on line 9. And this is an analog repeater. 25 kilohertz bandwidth. And then we're going to put in the call sign for this repeater. So it's N1WW. Receive frequency is 145.37. Transmit frequency is going to be 144.77. And remember that offset that was negative 0.6 megahertz? If you notice in the AnyTone software where it says correct frequency, we never put anything there unless there is an issue with the repeater being off frequency itself or the radio is off frequency for some reason. This is the only time correct frequency is used. You never put anything in there. Your offset is literally already figured right here. So we've got that now. We're going to come down here to where it says analog right here. And we've got our decode and our encode. So we're going to switch these on to CTCSS. And then it's 136.5. Here's something neat you can do. You can literally type 136, puts it at the bottom, and click on it. Give me 1 second here.
This be tough.
Uh-oh. And I'm not sure why my audio dropped out where I can't hear you guys, but we'll get that fixed. Okay. All right.
Jarvis is shorting out.
No, my earbuds are connected to my phone and somebody was calling. Give me 1 second here. All right.
You know that's on the screen, right?
Okay. No, it was not Ron calling.
I was waiting for that.
Okay. One. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Because I need to respond to that text message. Because it's a BC Plus member that we actually were going to talk to.
Alan, you make me hungry. All right.
All right.
Is everybody?
Don't talk about pizza. I've got chicken bacon ranch pizza waiting on me. All right. So let me get my screen shared again.
Oof.
All right. So to pick up where we left off here, we got our CTCSS here. Now, some repeaters will work with just squelch mode of carrier. Others, you need to put the CTCSS under squelch mode. If one way doesn't work, try the other. Sometimes these listings with the uplink and downlink tone are not updated correctly. And it takes a little bit of playing around with these settings right here to get it to key the repeater. And that's just because the information isn't been updated by the repeater trustee on Repeater Book. So now we can click OK. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull this screen down so I can keep everything on one screen instead of switching back and forth on the screen share. All right. All right. So here's Danvers. And I've actually been to Danvers. It's just north of Boston by about 30 minutes or so. And we notice this one says 136.5 here. And if we look, the frequencies are almost, keyword almost, the same. So what we can actually do to save ourselves some time on the AnyTone software, 145.47, 144.87. We can actually come over here, copy this one, since this is already the same, paste it, and then go back in 145.47, 145.47, and that should be 144.87. 144.87. And then the only thing we got to do is change the name and click OK. We don't even have to mess with setting up our CTCSS because they're the same. So this method may not work for everybody to do it like I'm doing it, but it's what works for me. Find your own rhythm. That's the important thing. Ham radio is a journey. Find your own rhythm, what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable taking and putting each one in and setting up all the settings one by one, go for it. Do what works for you. Don't do what works for me just because you're trying to imitate what I'm doing. Do what works for you. Because sometimes I get it wrong.
Not all of us are F1 computer drivers, okay? My fingers don't move that fast, neither does my mouse.
I'm not an F1 driver.
Formula One computer driver.
Nope. Nürburgring in Germany. They go faster. All right. So that takes care of those two. And let's get them into zones now. Okay. So NOAA, we're going to put in its own zone. So everything that's labeled NOAA, we can just shift and down arrow to select it, move it over to be a zone channel member. And up here, we're going to select this to start on NOAA 1. And then NOAA Weather. Then I'm going to click Next. And this one, I'm just going to label it Aries Repeaters. Or MA for Mass Aries. And then just move those over. Click OK. And then I've got my two zones. Now, in doing this, I may have made a mistake because I don't remember right this second if I actually read from the radio before I started this. So I need to check model information. And this is set for commercial mode, Europe. This needs to be in mode 7. So here's how I'm going to fix this. So I don't get a band error when I write to the radio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to export my channel and my zone file. And I'm just going to come back over here, new folder, and I'm just going to label this BC Live 168. And I'm going to label the channel file zone. It's going to be called zone. I'm going to click export, export complete. Now, when I switch the model to mode 7, which is amateur mode, which is what all of our radios ship as, unless you order a commercial radio, then that'll be mode 01. Frequency data will be cleared. Click OK. And now we see that this changed up here to be compatible with mode 7. Then all I have to do is import channel, click on the channel file, zone, import. There's all my data back. And I didn't have to re-enter everything. That is a quick and dirty way to fix that. And that probably just answered a whole boatload of questions about, I'm getting a band error. How do I fix this? I already put all this work into this code plug. There you go.
Yep.
All right. So one thing that we need to look at is sometimes we'll get a roaming zone error when we go to write a code plug to a radio. We just need to have a blank channel here, essentially, in that roaming zone, even though we're not using it. And then when we go to write to the radio ID list, you've just got to have something in there if you're only using it for analog. Since I use DMR2, I'm just going to enter DMR ID, and this one's mine.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Well, at least until I can get that 86753091.
That's going to be cool. I have to admit, that will be cool.
Don't know when that'll happen, but I'm gunning for that one. Now, only if I had that much sitting in a bank account to buy more radios, that would be nice. All right.
Second that.
So there's that. I don't have any talk groups. That's why it says contact 1. Remember, this is just strict, just got the radio out of the box, don't have anything to base anything off of, code plug. So If you get the super or the ultra code plug from BridgeCom systems, the NOAA frequencies are already programmed in. And the only thing you'll have to do is go to the end of the code plug and actually start adding your analog stuff, just like we just did, and putting it into a zone. And remember to leave spaces so everything doesn't run together, so you know how to separate your zones. So one thing we're going to do is come over here to two-tone. And if it ever has anything in here, just click on it, delete it, and then come over here to the code, do the same thing. Excuse me, if you're not using two-tone. And then we're going to go to optional settings. And if it's only showing you frequencies, under work mode in the optional setting tab is actually where you change your display mode between frequency and channel. You'll want to set that to channel because you're using your channel memories. Power on, startup reset. If this is turned off, you will not be able to do an MCU reboot in the future. Leave this on. Because if you ever have to reset your radio to factory default, you got to be able to have this available. So leave it set to on. If you want to put in your call sign and your name here, change this from default interface to custom character, and then you can type this in, click OK, and then when you write to the radio, the next time it boots up, it'll display that information on the screen after it says booting. Okay, display. This is where your brightness settings are. I'm not going to cover everything here, but just what each tab is. GPS and ranging, I know we're going to get this question. The 168 does not currently have a GPS or Bluetooth board in it. They may do something later on with a second revision that has that, but at this time it does not have it, but it is set up in the software to support that in the future already. So don't think there's anything wrong with your radio like, hey, I can't turn on GPS, I can't turn on Bluetooth, what's going on? It's not a feature in the radio yet. The software already supports it, but it's not there yet. So just a heads up on that. And for some reason, it is not showing me the chat again. Okay. Okay. VFO scan, this is where you can limit your scanned frequencies of how wide you want to be able to scan for receive. Record, this radio does have the ability to record analog and DMR now. Before it was just DMR, now you can record analog and DMR. And you can set the buttons up to turn that on and off under key functions. And new for the 168, we get a little picture showing what button's what in the CPS. So you can, take a screenshot so you know which one is which as you're memorizing your button setup. All right. Digital function. Set these to a minimum of 5 right here. And filter own ID in missed call, set that to on. And make sure that this is set to 120. The rest,
Now,
it really up to you what you want to set here.
Those of us that have the 168, the 578, the 878s, keep in mind your the time limits that were set up there. That will also knock out whenever you are having a QSO or you're monitoring one of the talk groups and you look up and it says missed call. This is where those times actually knock that out. Jeremiah went and worked on it for, what was it, a day?
Trying to troubleshoot it because people kept saying I'm getting missed call on their radio when they do a parrot test. And I discovered that every single one of them had this set to 1 second. When we upped it to 5 seconds, they no longer got those missed calls doing a parrot test as long as this was on. All right. Give me just a second here. Max headphone volume. This will be for the headphone jack on the radio. Digital mic gain, I set that to 3. Something with the 168 is it actually has the ability to auto level with the new processor that's in the 168. So it can auto level your audio. So
I love it.
If you're trying to swallow the radio because you skipped lunch but you still want to talk, this should help. All right. Analog mic gain, same thing. The TX noise reduction, some people say they can tell a difference. Some people say they can't with the noise reduction features. And then the dynamic range control, audio gate control, I think is what AGC stands for. Some people turn that on for RX leveling. So if somebody's too loud, it should back them off before it sends the signal through the speaker, so they're not blowing out your eardrums. And this is on the 168 only as of right now.
Okay, Jacob posted in the chat as a question. Well, 2-part question. Is 120 milliseconds correct that his code plug had 300 in it? And then what about the enhanced sound quality, on or off?
Really, it for the enhanced sound quality, give it a shot. See if you notice a difference. That's the best thing I can tell you on that one. As far as the time on the digital function for the transmit preamble duration, AnyTone recommends 120 milliseconds. So if yours says 300, I would change it to the 120. Just for that. Alert tones. This is going to be the big one for you guys. If you are hearing beeps every time you key up, unkey, press a button on the radio, this is the magic place that you can fix that. So you can turn it off and or turn on your startup sound. So, if you're trying to be inconspicuous and not be suspicious, cue the sound effect from TikTok. This is where you would turn off the startup sound and all of your buttons. And these are where you can actually edit the frequency of the tones. These fields right here. I know on my other code plug, I actually have it set up to sound like another company's radio when I key the radio. So that's how that works. The big thing right here, this STE, if you have these on in any way, shape, or form right here, this can cause an issue with you receiving analog audio. So you'll want to edit those and turn these two off. So just a heads up there. So with that being said, let's take the radio. Go ahead and get my display settings set correctly here. Menu exit time. This is the big one because people say the menu disappears too quickly. This is on your display tab under optional settings in the CPS. This is where you set that. And okay, that's good. And click OK. And now I should be able to plug in the cable and write to the radio because I already know this radio is on mode 7, so I don't need to read it first.
All right.
Because we went through and fixed that earlier.
While that's being wrote, don't forget all of the BridgeCom Plus members, the link for the giveaway. Make sure you've got it in there. We should have like a minute or two before it expires.
Actually, it probably just expired.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop my share. Get back to the main screen here. And get my lovely little... And that is the squelch being open on the radio. So that is something that I should have addressed. I don't think I set this setting for it. That is listed under Other in the optional settings. Here's how you can fix that on your radio itself. You're going to go to Menu, scroll down to Channel Set, or excuse me, Settings, then Channel Set, and Squelch. See if you guys can see that okay. Here's where your CTCSS tones and all of that are. But for the actual squelch on receive itself, that is actually under Radio Set and should be under Other Function. Yep, an SQ level. So it's Menu, Setting, Radio Set, Other Function, then SQ level. Go ahead and hit Select with your menu button. Mine's set to off. I'm going to change that to 1. Hit it. And now we don't get the static. All right. So now I can go back. And then on the 168, these are your zone buttons to move up and down. On the 878, it's the round circular button. The zones are the folder essentially on the radio that hold your channels. And the channels, you just flip through using the channel knob. And you'll see that the squelch is completely quiet now across the whole thing. Mostly because I am indoors and my house is a Faraday cage. Unless I have an external antenna, I can't do squat with analog. That's why I've got my 578 sitting on the desk over there. Oh, and as I get closer to the window, it starts trying to pick something up now. That figures. All right. So that is how you program the 168. The steps are going to be almost identical for the 878 and the 578. The big thing to remember is how you find your SkyWarn repeaters and your Aries repeaters for your analog setup. What you're going to do is basically search for your local radio clubs because they usually are the ones that sponsor those repeaters. Search for those, check their website, and see if they have a repeater that says SkyWarn repeater on their list or Aries repeater. And it doesn't hurt to check your local radio club's website and see if they have a net on that repeater. That is a great way to see how a controlled net works for emergency situations. They do Aries emergency net test or weekly net test all the time. I know in Indianapolis, it's the 146-700 repeater, I believe, where they do the Aries net. And that is a controlled net. You have a net control operator that takes the check-ins, and they go through the whole list of, do we have any emergency traffic, any stations with priority traffic? And then they take and call for people by call sign that were on the prior list. And they check that, make sure that that's all good. So, support your local amateur radio club because they're the ones that keep these repeaters on the air. Them and the independent repeater owners.
It ain't cheap to maintain one, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
All right.
Okay.
Now, any questions? YouTube, BridgeCom Plus, y'all got any questions? Go ahead and post them and see if we can get y'all to get you the help and point it in the right direction.
All right. Clint, I sent the link to your email. I'm not sure why it's not working. N5 RIV, is the RT Systems programmer and the AnyTone CPS compatible? Yes and no. They both label the file as an RDT file extension, but the files are completely different. If you program your radio with the AnyTone software and then read it with the RT System software, it'll read the radio fine. And then any changes you make in the RT System software, once you've read the radio, you can write back to the radio and then read it with the AnyTone software. So you can have, the same code plug in two different formats for two different programmers. Let's see. Don Bush in Alaska. Hopefully you've got another log on the fire because I know it gets cold there.
Just thinking about it makes me cold all over again. We just got defrosted down here.
Yeah, we got up to 52 today with rain.
We got up to 77 today, and it was gorgeous. Not a cloud in the sky. Still had piles of ice everywhere, but it was nice.
Yeah, I think the rain pretty much melted ours. So, but we're supposed to get snow and rain again on Sunday. So, is what it is.
BC Plus chat put on there. What's the setting to avoid the missed call again?
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me get the drawing ready.
Okay.
And let me pull that screen back up.
Yeah, Jonathan, It's been that over here for the past 3 days. Absolutely perfect. Good thing is I don't own a two-wheeler. Otherwise, I'd have done been out there on it like that.
Yes. Bear with me just a second here.
Jonathan says that he's had his three-wheeler out. I'm going to just assume that is a trike and not a three-wheeled tricycle.
Well, I'm hoping it's a trike or a three-wheel ATV and not that thing that, the clown stands behind the bear pedaling at the circus. All right. And there's that. All right. So CPS and share screen again. Get to the right side here. I've got too many computer monitors and sometimes not enough. Okay, guys.
Understood.
So right here, you want to have your group and your person call time set to 5 seconds minimum. And then filter own ID and missed call on. So when you do a parrot test, you won't get that missed call thing at the end of the parrot test. Now, if somebody keys you directly doing a manual entry into their radio, like a manual private call, and you don't respond, that will trigger the missed call.
Or a text
so
message.
Just be mindful of that. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and set this correctly.
Yours was
that's going to drive me nuts.
Short trip.
I know, right? Not even the honey roasted kind.
There you go. All right. Any other questions that we have on either side? Jeremiah, do you have any other questions in the YouTube?
Let me get back to that real quick. Let's see. Steve says they had a mild winter in Alaska this year, and Don Bush says 40 degrees, starting to get dark where he is.
Oh, wow.
So, all right.
That's just one place that I've never really desired to be when it's got 6 months of sunlight. That'd drive me up the wall. Yeah, no, short
Yes.
trip, but still.
Okay, what was this? Please tell me. Okay. No fire to put out. We're good. All right, so let's find out who our BC Plus winner is tonight for our BC Plus members.
Drum roll, please.
All right. And
toss a couple more peanuts in there for that hamster.
all right. Let's see. Has he won in the last 6 months? I don't believe he has. Take a look here real quick.
And
ooh. Actually, he has. He won in November. So we need to redraw.
no.
All right. I know he's won in the past, but I don't think in the last 6 months for this guy.
Very interesting.
He's one of our friends of the show. Oh, he's not here tonight, so he won't be eligible. I just remembered that. Okay, third time's the charm, folks.
I don't know. Record's been 7.
I know, right?
And that was a good prize, too, that was given away that night. I mean, come on. If the prize that was being given away was a ultimate ham shack pack, wouldn't you stick around to the end to wait for the drawing before you left? We had to draw 7 times before we got a winner that was present. Remember, that's the key thing. You have to be present to win. And it took us 7 pulls before we finally found one that was here.
All right. He is here.
Ooh,
okay.
Who we got?
Ron, I hope I say it right. Start Cell. KB5, LNC. I see you in the chat.
There he is.
Let me see here. Great. Yep. Excellent.
All right.
Yep. Last time I won was the night of the presidential debate, back on June or somewhere around the 27th. So,
actually, I think it was June 6th. Nope, June 27th. You're right.
Oh, but
I thought it said June 6th.
Yeah, well over. That's my daughter's birthday. But anyway, all good. Is the BT01 available from the prize wall? I think that's the handset for the 578.
Let me double check. I believe it is on the prize wall. Just 1 second here. And I apologize, guys, if I seem a little discombobulated. Last week, before I went out of town for my friend's memorial, my computer literally crashed the day before I left. And I had to reinstall everything and didn't even get a chance to get everything reset up quickly. So I've been rushing around like a ape chasing the guy that's carrying the stack of bananas. So trying to get everything set back up here. Let's see. Okay. BTO1 is on there. So yes.
Nice. Thank you.
All right. So I will get that set up for you. So for everybody who joined us tonight, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, YouTube. And thank you to our BC Plus members. Remember, we do this to help you guys. So we greatly appreciate the support. And if you've got a show idea, please feel free to send it to bcplus@bridgecomsystems.com and let us know what it is. and we will see what we can do to make that happen. I am working on a special guest for March, towards the end of March. I don't have any details specifically on that yet because it's still in the works, but just please keep your fingers crossed because I would love to have this person on the show. So again, thank you so much for being here for BridgeCom Systems BC Plus. I'm Jeremiah, W9JM, with
Jeremy, KD5, YUZ.
73.